Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Safety mask? Hyuan City, inside the Lord's mansion. Lin You looked at the protective shield that appeared in front of him in surprise. But immediately, he reacted and immediately summoned the Demon King Dragon and the Demon Concubine Dragon to start attacking the protective shield. In the blink of an eye, the sound of bang bang spread throughout the mansion. And other plants that broke into the city also rushed over and joined the ranks of the attack, causing the protective shield to splash a large terrifying ripple. Lin You took a look. Tier 6 territorial shields have a total of 6,000 durability points. Each Tier 6 unit attacks once, it will lose 1 durability point, and Tier 7 attacks will lose 2 points. When he attacked more than 300 units in one round, the durability of the protective cover dropped by nearly 400. Very good. Everyone worked hard and broke his protective cover. While shouting loudly, Lin You took out a steel knife from his personal space and attacked the protective shield in front of him. And the durability of the protective cover is also dropping rapidly. It only took 2 minutes before the huge protective cover made a click and cracks appeared. Then, under the combined attack of several 7th-order plants, it shattered into countless fragments, revealing the beehive inside at once. At the same time, the 40 or 50 poisonous bees stationed in the territory also swarmed up and attacked them. It's a pity that these poisonous bees are only Tier 6. With Lin Yu's absolute superiority in the number of troops, they were all killed within a few seconds and broke into the territory. However, at this moment, a large white light suddenly lit up on a platform in the territory. The Lord of Hyuan City, who was supposed to be several kilometers away, actually appeared directly in the territory with his troops, instantly blocking his way. Send? Lin You stopped, but he didn't expect that the other party would have such means. It seems that he obtained a building or ability similar to emergency teleportation, otherwise it would be impossible to rush back from such a far place. You are attacking my territory? Fang Honghai looked at Lin You with a gloomy face. At the same time, he was constantly looking at the troops around Lin You, and couldn't help being secretly startled. Because Lin You has more troops than him. In shock, he went on to say, "Who the are you? I don't seem to have any grudge against you, do I?" No grudges? Lin You sneered, "You're ready to attack my territory, and you said you don't have grudges? Sneak attack on your territory?" Fang Honghai was stunned for a moment, then he reacted and his face suddenly sank. "You are, the Lord of Yellow Sand City. It really is you." Lin You gradually narrowed his eyes. The other party's subconscious exclamation can already be said to be no self-advocacy, and he didn't say any more nonsense, and directly gave instructions to the plants around him. Go. In an instant, all the plants erupted and attacked Fang Honghai in the territory and the troops around him. After reacting, Fang Honghai's expression also changed. He couldn't understand why Lin You suddenly appeared here. But since the matter had been exposed, he didn't bother to think about it anymore, and an undisguised killing intent emerged in his eyes. Go. Kill him for me. Now, he is fighting this battle, and there are 2 7th-order lords by his side. Is it still easy to deal with a 6th-order lord? In the blink of an eye, the poisonous bee colony beside him and Lin Yu's plant troops collided fiercely, fighting frantically. The thorns of the vines in the sky, mixed with the poisonous needles of the poisonous bees, surged wildly in the territory. Fang Honghai, on the other hand, stepped aside and used the remaining magic energy to start recruiting troops to fill the vacancy. The poisonous bees continued to die under the attack of the plants, and many 6th-order plants around Lin You were torn apart by the poisonous bees. The whole scene was extremely chaotic. However, gradually, Fang Honghai felt something was wrong. Because he found that his troops were depleted very quickly, and a dozen or 20 died in just a few breaths, and they were still multiplying. No. The opponent not only has more troops than him. Fang Honghai widened his eyes, looked into the distance, and found that there were 4 terrifying figures completely different from other plants beside Lin You. Every time the four arms make a move, a large number of poisonous bees will almost fall under their attack, and they can't even resist. Even in the sky, 2 huge plant dragons were flying, blocking his 2 7th-order female bees, and they were inseparable in the air. 2 on 2, there was no advantage at all, and it was even completely suppressed. Those 2 plant dragons are also tier 7 troops. A full 6 7th levels. Fang Honghai was shocked, and his body trembled uncontrollably. The lord of this yellow sand city is not at all like what he received from the news. He doesn't even have a 7th order, but has 6 7th orders. It's 3 times his size. This time, Fang Honghai finally panicked, and desperately recruited troops in an attempt to block Lin Yu's attack. However, how could Lin Yu give him a chance to go against the water? Under his signal, the Demon King Dragon and Demon Concubine Dragon in the air shook off the 2 7th-order female bees in front of them, and then circled each other and ascended into the sky. Roar! Hey! The roar of the Demon King Dragon and the long howl of the Demon Concubine Dragon appeared again. The 2 giant dragons continued to circle upwards, and the speed of rotation became faster and faster. In the end, they even directly activated the Swift Shadow skill, which turned into afterimages and disappeared into the air. The next second, a destructive wind suddenly blew up and swept across the entire territory in an instant, covering the bee colony and hive underneath. In the whole sky, the air is shaking, and the wind and clouds are surging. The terrifying scene www.lightnovel.com suddenly caused the territorial residents in the city who were fleeing everywhere to stop and look in the direction of the Lord's mansion in horror. In the Lord's mansion, Lin You evacuated early with the plants, away from the swept range of the wind. It wasn't until the entire mansion was razed to the ground and the hive that symbolized the core of the territory was broken, a reminder finally sounded in Lin Yu's ear. Congratulations, you successfully killed the 6th Order Lord and obtained 30,000 mana, 4613 wood, 4708 stone, 3590 iron ore, 3435 copper ore, 800 magic powder, 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Good guy, there are so many resources. This was something Lin You didn't expect. In contrast, the magic energy was much less than expected, with only 30,000 remaining. It is estimated that Fang Honghai had consumed a lot when he recruited a large number of troops. It's a pity. After the gust of wind gradually dissipated, Lin You passed through the ruined territory and came to the previously lit platform to examine it carefully. Obviously, Fang Honghai just sent it back through this platform. Being able to teleport lords and troops back from such a far place is definitely what Lin You wants most now. Because once he has this thing, he can take his troops to further places without worrying about not being able to return to the territory in time. It is simply an essential artifact for traveling. I don't know where Fang Honghai got this building. If possible, he also wants to get one for his own territory. It seems that I should pay more attention in the future. Lin You deeply remembered the appearance of the teleportation formation, and then put away his eyes. At the same time, another prompt sounded immediately. Found an unclaimed territory, do you want to move it? Once relocated, the territory will become your dependent territory and gain all control over the territory. Note that each lord can only have one affiliated territory. If you choose to migrate, the affiliation with the original territory will be lifted. Can it be migrated directly? Lin Yu's movements were stagnant, and he was extremely surprised. But after thinking about it, if he moved his territory here, wouldn't Huangsha City become a landless land again and come over to other lords? This can't be done. Although Huangsha City is not as good as Muyuan City, its geographical location is much better than that of Muyuan City. Not only is it backed by mineral veins, but it is also connected to the Fire Country, and there is a vast gobi in the middle to provide monster resources. As long as the business route is opened up, it is equivalent to a golden route. How can it be cheap for others? Forget it, anyway, the threat has been resolved, so you can do whatever you want. Lin You shrugged and ignored the prompt. He has so few manpower under him now that he can barely manage one yellow sand city, and another one might not be a good thing. However, just in case, he still has to deal with the hidden dangers here. So soon, Lin You took the plants out of the Lord's mansion and left Hyuan City in full view. It was not until he could no longer be seen that the tense residents of Hyuan City finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, it didn't take long before another, even more astonishing news came back. Those cultivators who accompanied Fang Honghai out were all killed, not a single living mouth was left. This time, the entire Hyuan City was a sensation inside and outside, and they were all speculating about Lin Yu's identity. As for Lin You, he had already rushed back in the direction of Hyuan City with the plants at this time. It wasn't until it was getting dark that he finally returned to the territory, and just happened to run into Wei Gang, who came to look for him. "What's the matter with me?" Lin You asked the plants to return to the territory first, while he stayed outside to talk to Wei Gang. Lord, I have something to report to you." Wei Gang came to Lin You and bowed respectfully. "This afternoon, 2 sixth-order cultivators came to our city and said they wanted to report to Lord. Effectiveness, how do you think it should be handled?" As he spoke, he secretly observed Lin Yu's expression, feeling a little uneasy in his heart. Although he is the guard commander of Hyuan City, his strength is only 5th rank. Even taking into account the equipment that Lin You had given him before, it was only barely on par with the ordinary 6th order. Now that there are new 6th order cultivators who want to work for Lin You, he is naturally the most worried, but he doesn't dare to say anything more. Originally, Lin You was still wondering why Wei Gang suddenly came to find him, but after seeing his expression, he immediately understood. How could he not see his careful thoughts? Lin You smiled, then stretched out his hand and patted Wei Gang's shoulder. "Let it be done by Director Shui, he knows how to arrange it, and you too, you have to practice harder, otherwise how will you lead these practices in the future?" "By Lord. Wei Gang raised his head and looked at Lin You in amazement. When he saw the smile on Lin Yu's face, he was shocked. Yes. This subordinate must work hard to cultivate. Rise to the 6th rank as soon as possible. Well, let's go. I'll revise the authority of the training ground later, so that you can use it freely. Go there to practice when you have time. Thank you, Lord, for the reward." Wei Gang was very excited. It wasn't for the petty profit of a magic crystal in 1 hour in the training field, but because of Lin Yu's affirmation. As long as there are words from Lin You, even if he is allowed to go through fire and water, he will not refuse. So after taking orders, he hurriedly turned and left, preparing to convey the news to Shui Changgue. "Right, there's one more thing." But at this moment, Lin Yu's voice came again. Wei Gang, who hadn't gone far, stopped and looked at him curiously. "You don't need to inquire about the news about Hyuan City, just pay attention to what's going on there." "No more inquiries?" "Why?" Wei Gang wondered. "Because there is no need to inquire." Lin You said lightly, then turned around and walked into the vine forest, leaving only Wei Gang, who was confused. Seeing that Lin You didn't want to say more, he didn't dare to ask any more questions, and hurried back to Hyuan City, disappearing into the night in a blink of an eye. After returning to the territory, Lin You soon came to the Tree of Life. He took a look. During the expedition against Hyuan City, he lost a total of more than 26 tier troops, all of which were divided and proliferated, and did not hurt anybody. So he saved the effort of re-recruiting, and only needed to let those bodies replenish their energy and proliferate again. The light from the lantern grass that just floats above the territory has a group healing effect, allowing them to slowly recover under the light. After checking the status of the troops, Lin You opened the building interface and used the resources he just obtained to upgrade the training field, directly raising it to the 6th level. Building name, training field, subordinate territory, building level, level 6. Architecture introduction, it can improve the cultivation speed of the territorial people. The higher the level, the better the improvement effect and the more available space. Cultivation speed, 160%. Daily consumption, 600 mana. Required for upgrade, 1,500 wood, 1,500 stone, 750 iron ore, 750 copper ore, 3,000 magic energy. The buildings in the subordinate territories will consume a certain amount of mana for maintenance every day. The 6th level is 600 points, which is still within the acceptable range. As for the training field that has risen to the 6th level, the training speed has soared to 60%, and the improvement can be said to be extremely huge. Moreover, through the control interface, Lin You found that the rooms in the training ground had also changed from the original 10 to 60, and the building had been raised to 3 floors. In view of the improvement in efficiency and loss, Lin You directly changed the use price of the training room to 6 magic crystals/hour. This is an acceptable price for ordinary cultivators. After all, they can earn it by hunting and killing a monster above the 3rd rank. Yu reading www.yuukanshu.com. Isn't it too much for him to charge a fee for it? Assuming that the 60 rooms are full every day, and excluding the maintenance cost, he can earn 8,000 mana a day. Of course, this is only the most perfect state. His Yellow Sand City has just developed. How could it be possible that so many cultivators come to practice every day? As long as you don't lose money, there will always be a time to make money in the future. Thinking of this, Lin You turned off the building interface and glanced at the resources. There are still 210,000 mana left, and about 2,000 of each ore. Some of them were brought to him by the mining team today, but he grabbed most of them from Fanghonghai. Thanks to that guy, he finally had enough resources to build more basic buildings. Without hesitation, he continued to read in the building interface. I have to say that the basic buildings in the building interface are really rich, and Lin You was dazzled by it. What training ground, blacksmith shop, pharmacy, leather shop, exchange, knowledge tower, feedlot, arrow tower, fort, fishing house, granary, orchard, farmland, pasture, water wheel, tavern. There are almost everything, and each kind of building has a different function. Considering the limited resources, Lin You chose 5 basic buildings that are currently playing a big role in the construction of the training ground: the blacksmith shop, the pharmacy, the leather shop, and the exchange. In an instant, 5 rays of light suddenly lit up in Hyuan City, causing the surrounding pedestrians to stop and watch. What Lin You didn't expect was that a prompt sounded in his mind. Congratulations, you have reached 5 basic buildings in the affiliated territory, and the special building Blessing Temple is unlocked. Bless the temple? What? Lin You looked at the building interface doubtfully, and found that after a burst of light, there was indeed something completely different from other basic buildings on it, so he quickly opened it to check. Building name, Temple of Blessing. Building level, Tier 1, 187/500. Architectural function, pray on it, you can get the blessing of the sacred relics of the territory. The effect lasts for 1 day, and the speed of obtaining the power of faith is increased. The more prayers, the faster the speed of obtaining faith. Sacred artifact slot, Harmony of Nature, basic plant-based artifact. Level 1, injury recovery speed increased by 10%. Level 2, unlocked injury recovery speed increased by 10%. Level 3, unlocked injury recovery speed increased by 10%. Architectural introduction, the carrier of the territorial relics, which exerts different effects according to different relics, and the level increases with the level of belief. Construction required, 1,000 wood, 1,000 stone, 1,000 iron ore, 1,000 copper ore, 500 magic powder, 5,000 magic energy. This, Lin You was startled. There are such strange buildings in this territory. Not only can it provide blessings to people in the territory, but it can also speed up the acquisition of the power of faith. And it still has different effects according to different sacred objects. Wouldn't that say? If he obtains a powerful sacred object, he can attract more people to come to pray and greatly increase the speed of obtaining the power of faith? What a nice building. And to Lin Yu's surprise, this building also comes with a basic plant-based sacred artifact. Harmony of Nature. Each level increases the injury recovery speed by 10%, and the 3rd level is 30%. Although it is not strong, it is an additional bonus. Just after he finished building 5 first-order basic buildings, there were still about 1,000 materials left. Without hesitation, he chose to build it directly, and the location was chosen at the Lord's statue in the central square of Hyuan City. The next second, a beam of light soaring into the sky appeared, covering the entire statue. Under the illumination of the light, copper fences and mysterious patterns gradually appeared, setting off the statue extremely sacred, and even emitting a soft light green halo, which condensed into the shape of a tree tusk on the top of the statue. And around the tree of life in Lin Yu's territory, a huge light circle appeared, covering almost the entire territory. Such an abnormality immediately caused countless people to stop and exclaim, and many people even ran from their homes to the street, looking up at this spectacle. Not to mention, as expected of a building that cost Lin You 5,000 mana, the special effects are enough. Some cultivators who had extensive knowledge and had been to many cities also recognized this new building and flocked to the central square of the city one after another. After praying to the statues, a soft radiance immediately enveloped them, as if power was injected into the body. It's amazing. I feel that the wounds on my body are recovering faster. Me too. The arm that was caught by the monster yesterday is slowly recovering. Is this the rumored territorial blessing? That's great. It's more certain to hunt monsters in the Gobi now. The practitioners talked a lot, and their faces were full of surprises. Although Lin Yu's sacred artifact is not very powerful, it is very practical, especially for people like them who lick blood. It is a good improvement. After all, who would think that he has too much gain? In the blink of an eye, the news spread like a hurricane in the city, attracting countless cultivators to gather to experience the effect of territorial blessing. After Lin You was surprised, he withdrew his gaze and continued to look at the other 5 basic buildings. Just like its name, the training ground can improve the training efficiency. The higher the level, the higher the efficiency. The blacksmith shop, leather shop, and pharmacy can increase the success rate of equipment, armor, and pharmacy. The higher the level, the more the improvement. After all, the territorial people are not like the lords. They have the help of the system and can directly make equipment and other things with materials and magic energy. Some precious materials and herbs collected from hunting monsters can be made into finished products through these shops, and he can also earn some extra money from them. Why not? Even, he can buy materials at a low price by himself, make finished products and sell them, and then make a lot of money. These are all magical energy of white flowers. The only pity is that he doesn't even have a decent blacksmith, leather master, or pharmacist under his command. It seems that we should pay more attention to talents in this area in the future. Otherwise, the daily maintenance costs of these buildings alone would make him lose money, which is why he didn't upgrade the buildings first. As for the rest of the exchanges, it is much easier to understand. It was a place specially used to conduct fair transactions for the subjects. All citizens, including those outside practitioners and merchants, can sell things through the exchange, or issue purchase orders and the like. And he can get some commissions from it. For a place like this, just leave it to Shuechangue to arrange the manpower. It is very convenient to take care of, and you don't need to worry too much. After doing this, the resources that Lin You had just earned were basically used up, and there were still about 190,000 magic energy left, which was enough for the time being. Next, he took a look at Hyuan City's income and expenditure. After this period of development, Hyuan City's income has doubled compared to before, finally breaking through the level of 1,000 magic crystals per day. After deducting various labor maintenance costs, there are still 200 or 300 left, and finally, there are signs of making money. When these basic buildings develop, this number will definitely become more. This is also thanks to Shuechangue's careful management during this period of time. It seems that he will need to be rewarded well in the future. Think about it. Lin You then turned off the interface and came to the side to sit down. While eating, I checked the trend of the chat channel. Now, nearly 2 days have passed since the news of the fall of the 2 kings spread, but there are still many people discussing this matter. Guess whether a new king will take office, and the movements of other duchy kings, and even the topic of King Xingyao is not rare. Especially on the world channel www.lightnovel.com, some old lords in the kingdom are talking about this. Let me tell you, today I saw a huge crack in the direction of the kingdom and the capital. King Xingyao seems to have left with his army. And this matter? I'm also in the kingdom, why didn't I see it? The kingdom is so big, you think it's far from the kingdom, right? My territory is near the capital, and I also saw the crack. I heard from a ninth order boss that it seems to be the passage to the Yuansha continent. Fuck. So fierce? Isn't Yuansha continent the enemy of our primitive continent? King Xingyao actually ran over by himself. It is estimated that 2 10th order kings have been damaged. Run over and find them to settle accounts. King Xingyao has always been irritable and short-tempered. A battle of this level is out of our reach. You should just stay and wait for the news. Really? It has long been no secret that the original Sha world is hostile to the original world. Even Lin You, who has just arrived in the mainland for more than half a month, has learned a lot through the chat channel, and also knows that the Yuansha realm and the primitive realm are close neighbors. A large part of the reason why Primordial Realm will be deprived of luck this time is because Primordial Sha Realm colluded with True Spirit Realm to jointly deal with them. 2 kings died in Guangshengjiao Kingdom, and the situation of other duchies can be imagined, and I am afraid it will not be much better. A battle of this level is indeed not something that a little scoundrel like them can intervene, so they can only wait for the news silently. After observing the chat channel for a while and collecting some useful information, Lin You went back to the treehouse and rested. I've been busy all day today, and I'm really tired. The news that the Lord of Hyuan City was destroyed finally spread. Early in the morning, the news of the death of Feng Honghai, the Lord of Hyuan City, and his 50-odd 6th order cultivators, swept the entire Huangsha city and surrounding areas like a gust of wind. Is this true? Muyuan City was really destroyed. More than 56th orders, and the Lord himself, are all dead? I was fine when I came from Muyuan City the day before yesterday, so why was it suddenly destroyed? I heard that it happened yesterday afternoon, and the news has already spread. Hey! This is too terrifying. Fortunately, I wasn't in Muyuan City yesterday. Walking on the streets of Huangsha City, almost everyone around is talking about things about Muyuan City. Even those businessmen who originally planned to go to Muyuan City to do business have all terminated their plans and stayed to inquire about the news. It was only half the morning when the news spread so loudly that everyone knew it, but few people knew the specific truth and could only follow what everyone said. There was only one person, and when he heard the news, his expression was a little surprised. That person is Wei Gang. Because he suddenly recalled what Lin You said to him last night, so that he didn't need to inquire about the situation of Muyuan City. As a result, the news of the destruction of Muyuan City came back today. Could it be? Suddenly, Wei Gang's eyes suddenly widened, as if he finally understood the meaning of Lin Yu's words. Under the shock, his hands trembled uncontrollably, and there was a trace of sweat on his forehead. Commander, what's the matter? Are you feeling unwell? At this moment, a question came from the side, interrupting Wei Gang's thoughts. Wei Gang trembled for a while, and looked at the subordinate beside him, his expression constantly changing. However, he immediately reacted, shook his head and said, "It's okay, maybe you overtrained last night. Take them to training first. I'll go see Director Shui." After speaking, he didn't care too much, he left the playground in a hurry, and rushed in the direction of Shui Changgui's residence. And this time, in Shui Changgui's residence, Shui Changgui was explaining various matters in the city, as well as Lin Yu's various preferences and habits, with 2 6th order cultivators who had just joined Huangsha City. The 2 cultivators did not show any disrespect to Shui Changgui because of his inferiority, and listened carefully. Especially when hearing about Lin Yu's preferences and habits, he lowered his head even more with a serious look on his face. You have to remember that our Lord likes to be quiet, so don't bother him if you have nothing major in the future. Also, the Lord will often go out. When he's not there, I will give you all the care of the city. There must be no mistakes that will trouble the Lord. Schangui walked back and forth while explaining to the two practitioners. The two people below also kept nodding like chickens pecking at rice, and wrote down what he said one by one. However, at this moment, Wei Gang suddenly broke in from outside. Old Shui. Where are you? I'm in a hurry to find you. Since Wei Gang became the commander of the guards, he was famous for his loud voice. As soon as he roared, the sound spread directly throughout the house, and even the passers-by stopped in shock, and the three people in the living room were interrupted. Wei Gang, why don't you train soldiers? Why are you running here? Schangui went directly outside the living room and said angrily. Wei Gang was out of breath and came to Schangui. After a while, he regained his strength and said, Have you heard about Muyuan, Lao Shui? I heard, what's wrong? Schangui asked in doubt. As the general manager of Huangsha City, he is naturally the most informed. He learned about this matter as soon as possible, and sent someone to investigate. That's it. Wei Gang opened his mouth and glanced at the two people in the living room again. Seeing this, Schangui immediately understood what he meant and said, Don't worry, my own. Hearing his words, Wei Gang finally felt relieved, took a deep breath, and whispered all his guesses. Including the encounter with Lin You gang who came back from outside last night, and what Lin You said before entering the territory. After Schangui heard this, his expression finally changed. What do you mean, the matter of Hyuan City is the Lord? He stopped halfway through his words, his eyes filled with shock. The two people in the living room had excellent hearing, so naturally they heard their conversation. When they heard that the Muyuan incident was probably related to Lin You, they were even more shocked and looked at each other. Originally, they all thought that the Lord of Hyuan City had offended a certain seventh-order lord, so the city was tragically destroyed, but they didn't expect it to be related to Lin You. This sounds simple, but the meaning is different. Lin You actually destroyed a city alone. How terrifying strength does it take to do this? Under the shock, Schangui couldn't help but exclaimed, So the Lord was absent yesterday afternoon, but he actually went to Hyuan City? It shouldn't be wrong. I didn't see him coming back until the evening. Wei Gang nodded seriously, but looking at the Lord's appearance, he doesn't seem to want to show off, so I didn't dare to ask more. That's because our Lord is indifferent to fame and fortune, what do you know? Schangui rolled his eyes at him. But since this matter was done by the Lord, then we have nothing to worry about. Before, we thought it was a seventh-order lord who dared not touch it easily. Now, we can take this opportunity to annex Hyuan City of population resources, and expand Huangsha City. Then what should we do next? What else can we do? Now is the time when people in Hyuan City are scattered. Of course, they should immediately send people to Hyuan City to gather people's hearts. Lord doesn't look down on this, but as subordinates, we still have to do our best to make arrangements. Yes, especially craftsmen, it's best to recruit them all. Schangui said, hating that iron is not steel. Then he turned to look at the two people in the living room. That's right, I'll leave this matter to you. If it's done well, www.lightnovel.com, maybe it will be appreciated by the Lord. Real. The two practitioners were shocked. Just thinking about how to behave well in front of Lin You, the opportunity came. How could he refuse? He was grateful for his orders, and then hurriedly left Schangui's residence and hurried to Hyuan City. Wei Gang stayed and discussed the issue of population resettlement with Schangui. The other side. In Futaba Castle, dozens of kilometers away. The news of the destruction of Hyuan City's forces also spread here. So early in the morning, the Lord Mangqingan called all his subordinates to hold an emergency meeting. Lord, the news has basically been confirmed, and the one who shot is a plant lord. Below, a sixth-order cultivator in charge of collecting information said. The plant department? Mangqingan, who was sitting in the first place, frowned. The plant department near Futaba City seems to be the only lord of Huangsha City, right? Yes, and we have also investigated. The Lord of Hyuan City was not in the territory yesterday afternoon, so I guess. The man stopped halfway through his words. However, the meaning of his words was very clear, causing everyone present to change their expressions, and there was a lot of discussion underneath. Even Mang Qinggan, the Lord, suddenly shrank his pupils. Sure. Sure. Okay, now I'll send someone to visit the Lord of Hyuan City immediately with a generous gift. I'll just say it's my intention. I'm looking for a smarter past and don't mess it up. Understood. I'll make arrangements now. With a response, the man hurriedly led the order away. There was a lot of uproar about the Muyuan City incident. As the source of all this, Lin You was staying in the territory and studying his arms. After a night of accumulated experience, 2 more wooden shadow dragons, 1 wooden lion, and 2 wooden turtles have successfully risen to the 7th level. These units were the first ones he recruited after he came to the primitive continent. After such a long period of accumulation of experience, the merits and virtues are finally complete, and there is a sound reminder. Congratulations! The experience of the wooden shadow dragon has reached the full value, and it meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th level. Do you want to upgrade? Congratulations, Mu Rancher's experience has reached the full value, and it meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th level. Do you want to upgrade? Congratulations, the experience of the Moor turtle has reached the full value, and it meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th level. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade. Lin You has seen both the advanced forms of Mu Inglong and Mu Rancher. So this time, he mainly looked at the advanced form of the Moor turtle. As soon as his voice fell, the Moor turtle in front of him was enveloped in a ray of light, and his body began to change rapidly. The most obvious is that the evergreen tree on its back fell off directly from the back and turned into thick wooden thorns extending outward. Along with the limbs, rhizomes also grow, extending out from the turtle shell. It looks a bit like a spiky shield crawling on the ground. Name, Thorn Shield Mysterious Turtle. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 455. Physique, 910. Agility, 455. Spirit, 870. Skills, Super Regeneration, Turtle Shield Mirror Wall, Earth Escape, Shield Form, can be freely switched between normal form and shield form. Introduction, one of the installed arms, which can be freely switched to become the most solid shield for allies. Installing troops? Lin You looked at the introduction of the Thorn Shield Black Turtle with surprise. I thought it would be like Mu Rancher, simply comprehending a new skill, but I didn't expect something that I had never seen before. Could it be said that after the 7th rank, there will be arms in the form of equipment? Surprised, Lin You immediately asked the Thorn Shield Black Turtle in front of him to switch his shield form. Then, under his gaze, the Thorn Shield Turtle retracted its head and limbs, leaving only the rhizomes to swim outside. Lin You was thoughtful, and immediately called Qing Gang, who was competing with other dryads in the distance, and let him try to reach out to those roots. The next second, those rhizomes immediately wrapped around Qinggang's arms, turning into shields tightly inlaid on Qinggang's thick arms. Really? Lin You was inexplicably surprised. Looking at Qing Gang, who was looking at the shield on his arm, curiously, he directly issued an attack order. Then, Qing Gang jumped high and smashed the ground with the thorn shield on his arm. Boom! There was a deafening loud noise, and the whole ground shook violently. Looking at the ground under attack, there was actually a huge deep pit, and the attack power was even close to the 5th rank. You know, Qing Gang is only tier 4 now. And most importantly, the Thorn Shield Black Turtle in shield form can also release the Tortoise Shield Mirror Wall, as well as super regenerative self-recovery, so there is no need to worry about damage. This is also the most powerful place for this troop. Then, Lin You looked at the other arms that had advanced to the 7th rank. Luckily, the 2 wooden shadow dragons advanced into the Demon King Dragon and the Demon Concubine Dragon, respectively. They just made a pair and could use combined skills. The Muyuan lion has advanced to the blade shadow double-headed lion, and its strength has been greatly improved. With the addition of 2 thorn shield black turtles, his 7th tier troops have risen to as many as 12. With such strength, he can finally start to open up the trade route with the Fire Nation. Thinking of this, Lin You clicked on the contact interface, found Zhou Muyuan's name saved before, clicked it directly, and sent a message there. Failed to send, unable to contact lords in other areas. There's no way to get in touch? Lin You was slightly startled. It seems that this private chat function is not omnipotent. It can only contact the lords in the same area, and cannot cross to other principalities for contact. In this way, he can only wait until later to find a chance to cross the Gobi and go to the Fire Nation to take a look. I just don't know if that guy Zhou Muyuan died in the battlefield of Myriad Realms. If he dies, things are really not easy to handle. After all, Lin You doesn't know much about Fire Nation. In desperation, he had to close the chat interface and click on the Principality leaderboard to check it out. First place, Qiu Chongxing, Tier 6, Humanoid. Second place, Yan Rang, Tier 6, Demon. Third place, Ji Yunchuang, Tier 6, Angels. Fourth place, Zhao Outyan, 6th Order, Mechanical System. Fifth place, Nangong Jianyu, 6th Order, Undead. Number 478, Lin You, Tier 6, Plant Department. The increase in the 7th tier arms and the explosion of the 6th tier arms directly made Lin Yu's ranking soar from more than 900 to more than 400, a whole increase of more than 500. These people in front of them are either old lords with many more 7th tier arms than him, or they have other opportunities and their arms are quite strong. As a lord who had just arrived, Lin You was very satisfied with this ranking. And as time goes by, he will have more and more tier 7 arms, so there shouldn't be any problem to squeeze into the top 100. After closing the list, he took a look at the sunny weather outside. Lin You took Lingy and rode on the Demon King Dragon to leave the territory, and went to inspect the surrounding area. After this period of development, the scale of cultivated land has expanded several times. At first glance, all of them are green crops. The moat outside Huangsha City has also been excavated, surrounding the entire Huangsha City. Thanks to the water supply of the moat www.lightnovel.com, the trees that were planted before also began to grow slowly, making the surrounding area of Huangsha City covered with green, looking vibrant and not as desolate as before. From a distance, you can still see a lot of cultivators entering the Gobi to hunt monsters. It seems that they have just arrived from other places. Not to mention the city gate. In the early morning, many villagers from nearby villages came to the market, and there was an endless stream of cars and people. Finally, there was something like a city. Lord, Lord! At this moment, a cry came from a distance. Lin Yoshuan looked around and saw Su Zhongxing rushing towards him with a worried look on his face. What's wrong? Running in such a hurry. Lin You directly let the Demon King Dragon land in front of him. It's Futaba City, the messenger of Futaba City, I want to see you. Su Zhong said, panting. The messenger of Futaba City? Lin You was slightly surprised. Yes, they not only sent messengers, but also brought a lot of gifts, saying that they came to greet you on behalf of their lord. And this matter? Go, take me there to see. The lord of Futaba City sent someone to say hello, which made Lin You a little strange. He immediately followed Su Zhong through the city gate, and hurried into the city under the watchful eyes of passers-by on the street. Soon, they came to the reception hall of Huangsha City. Sure enough, they saw that Shuecheng Gue and Wei Gang had a few unfamiliar cultivators, with a pile of rich supplies lying beside them. Lord! Seeing Lin You appear, Shuecheng Gue and Wei Gang immediately came to salute, and when the envoys from Futaba City saw Lingy and the Demon King Dragon beside Lin You, they were all shocked. Tier 7. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. The messengers sent by Futaba Castle are all 6th Order cultivators. In front of the 7th rank, there is only one chance to escape. So when I saw that Lin You actually had 2 7th orders by his side, I could imagine how shocked I was. The slightest doubts I had about Muyuan were completely dissipated. Are you the one sent by the Lord of Futaba City? Lin You walked into the hall and looked at several people without shyness. Although he was also a 6th order, he exuded an aura of indifference and self-righteousness, which forced the envoys to take a half step back, not daring to look directly. In the end, it was the oldest old man who stood up and bowed deeply to Lin You. I've seen the Lord. We were ordered by the Lord of Futaba City to come to congratulate the prosperity of Hyuan City. These are some small gifts we prepared, and we hope the Lord will accept it with a smile. Oh, it turned out to be a gift. Lin You raised his brows. He did not expect that the Lord of Futaba City would move so quickly. It is estimated that he has something to do with Muyuan in some way, but since the other party has already sent gifts, how can he not accept it? After thinking about it for a while, he said, if that's the case, then you can reply to your lord for me, and say that I have accepted the gift. If you have time, you can come and sit in my yellow sand city. After all, everyone is also a neighbor. Sure. The old man nodded again and secretly wiped the sweat from his forehead. Come over and sit down, I'm afraid I will lose my life. Now, as long as you are a little bit well informed, you all know that the Muyuan incident has a lot to do with the person in front of you. It is too late to avoid them, so how can they dare to come and die? Of course, the politeness on his lips still needs to be said, so he had to accept it for the time being, and did not dare to disobey Lin You in the slightest. Schang and Wei Gang watched from the side and couldn't help but admire them. It was just a few short words, and he suppressed the arrogance of these 6th order cultivators. If it were them, there would be no way to do it. Okay, then, Director Shui, you are responsible for talking with them. I still have things to do, so I'll go first. Schang was better at negotiating things like this than him, so Lin You didn't need to stay here any longer. He only left the Demon King Long to be in charge of guarding, and left with Lingy. Congratulations to the Lord. Schang and Wei Gang shouted loudly. After sending off Lin You respectfully, he continued to negotiate with the messenger of Futaba City about the exchanges between the two cities. With the 7th tier arms and the deterrents just now, those envoys dare not make any mistakes. Soon, Lin You left the reception hall and went outside. Seeing people coming and going, the streets were much busier than before. He didn't go back to the territory immediately, but just wandered on the streets. When the residents who were going to the fair saw Lin You, they all warmly greeted him. Lord, you are here. Hello, Lord. I have seen the Lord. Lord, I have freshly made meat buns, would you like some? These people who opened shops and set up stalls on the street were basically the first group of people who followed Lin You and endured hard times with him. Therefore, they respect Lin You from the bottom of their hearts. Now that Hyuan City is getting better, they also renovated their houses and started businesses on the street by taking advantage of the advantages of the Aborigines. Some people with bright minds have even opened restaurants and hotels. Their business is booming, and their lives have been greatly improved. Now, when I think back to when I first arrived here, these territorial residents were not willing to eat a piece of meat. Lin You couldn't help but sigh. A sense of achievement also came to him in the bottom of his heart. Just as he was thinking about it, there was a burst of crackling firecrackers in the distance, splashing a large cloud of festive smoke and dust on the street, attracting pedestrians on the street to stop and look. I saw that at the end of the street, a huge welcoming team appeared and walked slowly towards this side. A simple and honest man wearing a red robe, sitting on a horse and walking at the front of the team, grinned and responded with a fist to Heshi, who was on the street. There were a large group of children on both sides of the team, chasing and scrambling happily, vying for the red envelopes and wedding candy thrown by the ritual officials. It seems like someone is getting married? Lin You was surprised. And just as he was standing on the side of the street, the groom also noticed him, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Lord? Why are you here? Having said that, the groom hurriedly dismounted from the horse and hurried to Lin You, ready to bow down to him. Okay, today is your big day. If you want to kneel, you have to go up and kneel in the hall. Lin You immediately supported the man and said with a smile on his face. He remembered that this man was the first Iron Bull who joined his mining team and was also very diligent in digging river channels. Unexpectedly, after only a few days, this guy has a wife. It seems that he has lived a very nourishing life. When Tainyo saw Lin You, he was also very happy and excited. He straightened up immediately, and kept scratching the back of his head while giggling. Then what, my lord, look, I'm seeking a wife today, or, why don't you come and be my officiant? After speaking, he looked at Lin You with anticipation. Because he knew very well that Lin You brought him all that he was able to have today, so he respected Lin You in his heart. If he could invite Lin You as the officiant, it would definitely be a great honor for him. Okay, but you can invite me a few more wedding drinks today, www.lightnovel.com, Lin You said with a smile. For this man who has always been diligent under his hands, he still will not refuse. Real. When Tainyo heard this, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Even the people around him all cast envious glances at him. There is a lord to witness the marriage. This marriage is really a matter of nails, but it is much more precious than real money. In the blink of an eye, many people came forward to congratulate him, and the entire street was surrounded by water, and Tainyo flushed with excitement. Then, welcome relatives as usual. Anyway, there was still a bit of free time, so Lin You went there together, served as the officiant for Tainyo, drank some wine and ate something, and then left the banquet and returned to the territory. The surrounding noise also became quiet. So good. Looking at the smoke that still filled the city, Lin You couldn't help but sigh. As a lord, he is destined to live a life full of dangers. I don't know when I will die, let alone whether I can survive forever. Love marriage is too extravagant for him. Maybe one day in the future, he will also meet his other half, but not now. Shaking his head helplessly, he came to the territory, summoned Lingy and 2 demon king dragons and 2 demon concubine dragons, and flew out of the territory together, heading towards the Fire Kingdom. Now the situation in Hyuan City is basically stable. It is also time to start opening up trade between the two countries. As for the other 7th tiers, he was left behind to guard the territory, so that he could go out with confidence. The gobi between the Great Wilderness Country and the Fire Country is very broad. Even if Lin You flew all the way on the back of the Demon King Dragon, it took 3 hours to reach the territory of Liuhua Nation. At the same time, a reminder sounded in his ear. Region change, switching regional channel. The switch is successful. The current area, the Principality of Flowing Fire. This area is not yours, please be careful. After arriving in the Principality of Liuhua, the suffix on the regional channel also changed from Duchy of Wilderness to Principality of Ruihua. Lin You clicked on the private message interface and looked at it, and found that he and Zhou Muyuan were indeed in the same area, and they could already contact by private message. Without any hesitation, he clicked on the interface and sent Zhou Muyuan a message. At the same time, a city built near a volcanic area. Zhou Muyuan was sitting in the conference hall, listening to the reports of his subordinates. Lord, the news just came back. Yesterday, there was another 7th Order practitioner from Zhang Hong's side. Counting Zhang Hong himself, they now have 2 7th Order practitioners. 2 7th Order. Zhou Muyuan just frowned. It seems Zhang Hong is deliberately trying to oppose us. Then what should we do now? If we let it go like this, it might be bad for us in Hyuan City. The subordinate said worriedly. Yes, Lord, Zhang Hong obviously came from the Tianyan Kingdom and wanted to the resources of our Hyuan City. Humph, those little people will only take advantage of the fall of the king of Tianyan Kingdom and no one to govern them, and they are just making chaos at the border. Do you really think that we have no one in Hyuan City? Humph. Those little people will only take advantage of the fall of the king of Tianyan Kingdom and no one to govern them, and they are just making chaos at the border. Do you really think that we have no one in Hyuan City? That's right. During this period of time, not only did we have a number of territorial people who were brutally murdered by them, but even if we were to lose both, we would have to drive them out of the Hyuan City boundary. The people below were filled with righteous indignation, and they were persuading Zhou Muyuan to act quickly. On the other hand, Zhou Muyuan had deep eyes and a contemplative look. Why didn't he want to do it right away? But he only had 2 7th ranks, and he had just risen up. If he really started, even if he could win, Hyuan City would definitely suffer heavy losses. But if this threat is not resolved as soon as possible, he will be stuck in his throat, causing panic in the city and detrimental to the development of the territory. Finally, he made up his mind and his expression became firm. If that's the case, then we. However, halfway through his words, he suddenly stopped, and a message appeared in front of him, interrupting his words. What's wrong? Lord? A cultivator below asked suspiciously. It's nothing, I have a friend who seems to have come to the vicinity of Hyuan City. Let's go here first for the meeting. I'll go out and have a look right away. For Lin You, Zhou Muyuan still has a very deep memory. After all, they were all cities assigned to the border of the principality, so they were half neighbors anyway. He just didn't expect that Lin You would come to look for him at this time, which made him a little surprised. After explaining to his subordinates, he left the territory with a team of centaurs and hurried out of the city, preparing to meet Lin You outside the city. And this time, Lin You, who was several kilometers away, also received a reply from Zhou Muyuan and learned the exact location of Hyuan City. Immediately let the Demon King Dragon turn around and fly towards the volcanic area in the distance. However, what Lin You didn't expect was that when he was passing above a dense forest, a shout suddenly came from below. It's a spy from Hyuan City. Shoot him down. Immediately afterwards, a mighty arrow suddenly hit him straight from the dense forest. Huh? Lin You frowned. He didn't need too many words at all. Lingy, beside him, waved his staff, and with a single finger, the arrow was entangled in thorns. But even so, the arrow still showed signs of breaking free from the thorns. It wasn't until he got close to Lin You that he finally exhausted his power and fell to the ground. At the same time, there was a loud shout from the forest below. Come on together and beat him down. Until then, Lin You didn't notice that there was a huge cottage hidden in the dense forest below. At the moment when the voice fell, a large number of figures began to appear in the cottage, and upon closer inspection, they were all practitioners above the 5th or 6th rank. The 2 leading people have even reached the 7th rank. Robbery? Lin You looked surprised. Unexpectedly, there are such large-scale bandits near Zhou Muyuan's territory. Dare to hit him on the head, it's really impatient to live. Seeing that the dense attacks were coming towards him from the forest, he immediately signaled the Demon King Dragon to escape quickly, and then together with the Demon Concubine Dragon, they flew over the cottage and circled at high speed. In an instant, the wind was surging. A terrifying gust of wind swept the entire cottage in an instant. Those cultivators of the 5th and 6th rank didn't even have time to scream. They were swept up into the sky by the gust of wind and turned into pieces of flesh in the air. Only the 2 7th order rankers escaped by chance, looking at Lin You in the air with a terrified face, and the troops beside him. Escape. Without any hesitation, the 2 turned around and fled, flying into the depths of the dense forest. Want to run? Lingy. Of course, Lin You couldn't give them a chance to escape. With a low drink, Lingy, who was waiting beside him, turned into a streamer and flew to the dense forest. At the same time, he waved his staff, and a tree in the distance turned into a 7th order tree demon, roaring. Rushed to the 2. The 2 looked at each other, and together they punched the tree demon. Boom! With a loud noise, the 7th order tree demon was directly smashed into half of its body. The strength of a 7th order cultivator is indeed not comparable to that of ordinary 6th order practitioners. It's a pity that they encountered Lingy, a heroic unit, and they were still in the forest with the strongest plant system. I saw the rays of light erupt from the Lingy staff, and in the entire forest, leaves flying all over the sky turned into sharp arrows and attacked the two of them straight. Immediately afterwards, the two escaped from the tree trunk in front of them, and a large thorn suddenly exploded, blocking their way instantly. When they came back to their senses, they were drowned in leaves, let out two shrill screams, and fell heavily to the ground. Good job. Lin You praised Lingy, who flew back. Resolving this bandit den is a gift for Zhou Muyuan, and it will save time, threatening their caravan exchanges. After reading it again and not missing any omissions, he continued on the road with his troops and rushed in the direction of Hyuan City, www.lightnovel.com, soon. He followed the position provided by Zhou Muyuan and came to a city on the top of the extinct volcano. At a glance, he saw Zhou Muyuan, who was waiting outside the city with troops and a few practitioners, and immediately called the Demon King Dragon to descend. And Zhou Muyuan couldn't help but secretly startled when he saw the several types of troops he was carrying. Not to mention the few cultivators around Zhou Muyuan, all of them were full of fear, posing as if they were facing the enemy. Fortunately, Zhou Muyuan stopped them in time, otherwise they would have to be thought of as monsters attacking the city. After Lin You landed on the ground, Zhou Muyuan greeted him with a smile. "Brother Lin You, stay safe. I didn't expect us to meet again. Yeah, it's true that I haven't seen you for a long time. Your place is really hard to find." Lin You rolled over and jumped off the back of the wood demon dragon, looking at the city in front of him. I have to say that this Hyuan City is really just like its name. It was built on a piece of black soil. Just looking at it, you can tell that there are a lot of ores underneath, and the land is very fertile. This condition is much better than when Hyuan City first started. And I don't know if it's because of the proximity of the volcano, and even the temperature is a few degrees higher than other places. How's it going? My territory still has the eyes of brother Lin You, right? Zhou Muyuan asked. Well, it's much bigger than my territory. It's not easy to manage, right? Lin You nodded in response. Unexpectedly, after Zhou Muyuan heard his words, a flash of worry suddenly flashed in his eyes. It's really not easy. After speaking, he couldn't help but sigh. When Lin You saw this, he was immediately puzzled. Looking at this, what kind of trouble did you encounter? To be honest, I am indeed facing a big problem here. A trace of bitterness appeared on Zhou Muyuan's face. Taking a deep breath, he explained everything one by one. It turns out that recently, due to the fall of King Tianyan and King Yuehua, both duchies have been plunged into turmoil. Many lords above the 9th rank are vying for the throne of king. So much so that the people below are also frantically competing for resources, making people panic. Some self-sufficient cultivators even took advantage of the situation to rob and harm one party, and even fled to the borders of other principalities to cause chaos. Coincidentally, Liuhua Kingdom happened to be adjacent to Tianyan Kingdom. Therefore, the city of Hyuan, which is near the border, was also implicated. It's better on your side. There are mountains and dangers blocking it. It's very difficult for people from Tianyan to pass through. Unlike me, there are constant foreign enemies, which makes you laugh. Speaking of the end, Zhou Muyuan couldn't help sighing, his eyes were full of worry. Seeing this, Lin You couldn't help but ask, "Do you want me to help?" He came here this time to talk to Zhou Muyuan about opening a business route. With the current state of Hyuan City, it is obvious that there is no way to take this into account. If this problem is not solved, wouldn't it make him run for nothing? He was still thinking about opening up the trade route and then making a fortune. He must not let those rogues ruin things. Zhou Muyuan didn't seem to expect that Lin You would offer to help him, and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Are you sure you want to help me?" "That's natural, but you can give me more benefits for future cooperation, otherwise, wouldn't I suffer?" "You're really not polite." Zhou Muyuan gave a wry smile. Sure enough, there is no free lunch in the world. But compared to just now, the expression on his face was obviously much lighter. He has already observed it secretly. The 5 units around Lin You are all 7th rank. With such a terrifying strength, let alone helping him destroy the enemy, even destroying the city of Hyuan is no problem, so he can be regarded as acquiescing to Lin Yu's conditions. After all, the security around Hyuan City is more important than a little profit. By the way, where are the enemies you mentioned now? Just in time, I'll deal with them with you right now? Lin Yu asked again. Hearing this, Zhou Muyuan stretched out his finger and pointed to a forest in the distance, and said solemnly, "It's about 5 kilometers away, there are a lot of them, and there are 2 7th-order cultivators, and their strength is not weak, why don't we discuss it first?" Thinking about how to deal with them? That mountain forest? Seeing the direction Zhou Muyuan pointed, Lin Yu's expression suddenly became strange. Wasn't that the place he just passed by? What's wrong? Is there any problem? Zhou Muyuan asked, curiously. It's nothing. Lin Yu coughed lightly. I want to ask, the place you're talking about, isn't it a big cottage? Yes, it's the cottage, how do you know? Zhou Muyuan looked at Lin Yu in surprise. This time, Lin Yu finally confirmed the conjecture in his heart. It turns out that it was not a bandit that I had just dealt with, but a rogue from the Principality of Tianyin, which was quite a coincidence. It wasn't until then that Zhou Muyuan finally came to his senses, and said stunned, "Don't you want to say? You've already met them on the way here, right?" Yes. Lin Yu nodded. If the enemy you are talking about is them, you don't have to worry now. You mean, you killed them? Zhou Muyuan's pupils suddenly shrank, and even a few of his subordinates couldn't help exclaiming. The rogue force that had plagued them for so long was actually solved by Lin Yu. If it wasn't for Lin Yu's expression that didn't look like he was lying, they wouldn't even believe it was true. Shock and astonishment flooded their hearts instantly. What followed was an uncontrollable ecstasy. Haha, okay, brother Lin Yu, you helped us solve a big problem in our hearts. Just based on this, you can ask me to give you as much profit as you want. Zhou Muyuan looked extremely excited. You're welcome, I just happened to meet. Lin Yu's mouth curled into a smile. So, the trade between our 2 cities has been finalized, right? Zhou Muyuan, that's natural. If the brothers don't dislike it, please come and sit in my territory, and discuss the details of cooperation by the way. Lin Yu, okay, lead the way. In this way, the group walked into the city of Hyuan, talking and laughing, to discuss matters about commerce. Lin Yu has 5 7th-order escorts, so naturally you don't have to worry about any danger. And the negotiation process went very smoothly. After some discussions, the 2 reached an agreement to formally cooperate and conduct business. Then, each side will send a part of the manpower to the caravan. After arriving at the principality's handover, they will be escorted by the other party, and they will go back and forth every 5 days. In this way, it not only ensures the safety of the caravan, but also does not run too far with the subordinates. It is even possible to open a business of collecting money to lead people across the Gobi, allowing other private caravans to accompany them to make another profit. As for the division, because Lin Yu helped Zhou Muyuan solve a major problem, it accounted for 55% of the total. Don't look at the fact that it's only 0.5% more, it's also a lot of income when the water grows. Okay, since we've finished talking about it, it's time for me to go back. Seeing that the sun was gradually setting, Lin Yu didn't talk to Zhou Muyuan anymore, and got up slowly from his seat. Is this going to leave? Why don't you go back tomorrow morning? Zhou Muyuan said politely. No, I'm afraid of accidents after I've been out for too long. After all, the territory is still there. If there is a teleportation array that can be teleported back directly, I'd be better off. Lin Yu waved his hand. Teleportation array? Do you mean the territory teleportation array building? Zhou Muyuan asked in confusion. What, do you know this thing? Lin Yu moved for a while and looked at Zhou Muyuan in surprise. I did see it. Zhou Muyuan nodded. I once saw the blueprint of the territorial teleportation array when I was in the battlefield of 10,000 realms. So that thing only exists in the battlefield of 10,000 realms? Lin Yu looked happy, and finally learned the origin of the teleportation formation. Muyuan saw that he seemed to be interested in this, and went on to say, I don't know if there are other places, but I did encounter it once when I was in the battlefield of 10,000 realms. But there were too many people grabbing the blueprints at that time, and I didn't have enough strength, so I didn't dare to mix it up. If you want to get that kind of thing, it's probably a bit difficult. Recalling the horror of the 10,000 realms battlefield, Muyuan couldn't help but feel a little scared. Although Lin Yu's strength is already very strong among the newly arrived lords, he does not think that Lin Yu can be strong enough to compete with those old lords. After all, the next battle of 10,000 realms will only be less than 3 months away. Of course Lin Yu didn't know what Muyuan was thinking. Hearing his advice, he immediately said with joy, it's really a bit difficult, it seems that I have to do more preparations. Okay, there is a chance to meet again. Muyuan didn't say much and sent Lin Yu outside. Then, under the watchful eyes of him and a few of his subordinates, Lin Yu rode on the Demon King Dragon. In a whistling gust of wind, it quickly flew off the ground and swept away from Hyuan City. That dashing appearance made Muyuan extremely envious. After watching Lin Yu leave all the time, he brought his troops and hurried to the direction of the rogue cottage. When Lin Yu returned to the territory, it was already night. The lights in Huangsha City are bright, and the busy day is gradually coming to an end. Came under the Tree of Life, clicked on the territory interface and took a look. The belief value rose to 179 points, and the territory's revenue for one day was almost 700 magic crystals, which was a little more than before. Counting the cost of construction and manual maintenance of the territory, the income can basically be balanced, at least not a loss. When the trade routes open and the buildings are upgraded, you should be able to easily break the 1,000 and start making money. Thinking of this, Lin Yu turned off the interface and went down the stairs to the tree house on the Tree of Life to rest. Today is a bit tiring after a day's rush. The night passed quickly. When the sun gradually rose the next day, Lin Yu got up early and brought Lingy and 100 troops to the outside of Huangsha City. When he arrived near the city gate, many private caravans and cultivators had gathered outside the city who had received the news, and they all wanted to take his ride to the direction of the Fire Country to do business. After all, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, how could it be missed in vain? Schang also followed Lin Yu's instructions, arranged the team and goods early in the morning, and waited there. The whole Huangsha city was bustling with people and cars, and it looked very lively. Are you all ready? After checking that there was no problem, Schang asked the team aloud. Immediately, representatives of various caravans responded. Then he trotted to Lin Yu for a while. Lord, the team is ready and ready to go at any time. Okay, let's go then, and get to the junction before noon. Having said that, Lin Yu rode the Blade Shadow Lion beside him and walked directly at the front of the team. Originally, he could have let Lingy take full responsibility for the mission, but considering that today was the first time the commercial route was opened, he decided to take a trip to see the situation in person. And those caravans and practitioners were even more overjoyed when they saw Lin Yu leading the team in person, and immediately followed closely with their respective teams. After a while, the entire huge team set off in a mighty manner under the leadership of Lin Yu. Lin Yu's plants gradually spread around the entire caravan, protecting the caravan. Even in the air, there were 2 7th-order plant giants flying in the air. That scene was not shocking. The entourage and the team started to discuss excitedly. It's the first time I've been to the Fire Country when I'm so old. I don't know what it looks like there. That's right, I heard that there are 6th-order monsters everywhere in the Gobi, and sometimes 7th-order monsters may appear. Most people really don't dare to cross. It's all right now, there is a caravan from Huangsha City, and you can go there to do business in the future. I heard that there are a lot of gems that grow under the volcano there. They are very effective for making weapons and armor. I plan to buy some and sell them back to the great wilderness country. Really? Then I have to buy some too. The proliferation of monsters on the border has always been a problem for transactions between principalities. Now that this problem is solved, naturally many people seize the opportunity and prepare to make a fortune. Those accompanying private caravans even consigned a lot of items from the great wilderness country, ready to go to the fire country for selling. And while they were chatting in private, a well-dressed, wealthy middle-aged man slowly came to Lin Yu's side on a horse and bowed slightly to him. "I have seen the Lord." "Who are you?" Lin Yu looked at the man. "My lord, B Fugu, is the owner of the Hyuan City Fugu firm. I've heard the name of the Lord for a long time, so I came here to meet you," the man said with his fists folded. "Hyuan City?" Lin Yu was slightly surprised. "If I remember correctly, Hyuan City should be hundreds of kilometers away from here, right?" Hyuan City, Lin Yu had heard the people mention it a few times. It was a prosperous city in the territory of the principality, far away from them. He didn't expect that someone would come to do business from such a far place, but he was a little surprised. It happened that he also wanted to know more about the forces surrounding Hyuan City, so he had a casual chat with B Fugu. Not to mention, although B Fugu's own strength is low, he has a wide range of knowledge. Even if it is a place that Lin Yu has never heard of, he can know a thing or two, which makes Lin Yu gain a lot. During the conversation, Lin Yu finally learned. The Lord of Hyuan City has just arrived recently. This is not what concerns Lin Yu the most. What he cared about most was that next to Hyuan City, there was a Seventh Order Lord's territory, the Seventh Order Lord. For the current Lin Yu, it is still too far away. If it really happened, he probably wouldn't have much resistance. What's more, according to B Fugu, there are more than 100,000 people in the city in charge of the Seventh Order Lord, and there are countless high-level practitioners. Even the Seventh Order cultivators, which are extremely rare on weekdays, are not rare. In front of him, the Sixth Order Lord is not worth mentioning at all. As far as the villain knows, the Lord of Hyuan City has been subordinated to the Seventh Order Lord and has been blessed, so the development has been very rapid recently. B Fugu rode beside Lin Yu on horseback and talked in general, as if he knew a lot about the Lord. "Is it under that Seventh Order Lord?" Lin Yu asked in surprise. "Yes, after all, the Lord of Hyuan City has just arrived, and his wings are still young. With the blessing of a Seventh Order Lord, it will naturally be much safer." "I see." Lin Yu suddenly realized. It is not bad for a low-level lord to work under a high-level lord. Although he has to provide some resources, he can get blessings. At least he can guarantee that he will not be disturbed by other nearby forces. Lin Yu was very surprised. He didn't expect B Fugu to know so many things. He really deserved to be the owner of the Chamber of Commerce. Involuntarily, he suddenly thought of the things he had always cared about, and then continued, "I see that you know a lot about the great wilderness. I wonder if you have heard about the things before the Lord came?" Unfortunately, he was disappointed. Facing his question, B Fugu just smiled bitterly. Lord really looks down on villains. All the lords are chosen by gods and descended to the mainland. How can villains know this? Don't dare to mess around. Ask about the gods. It can be seen that the aborigines in this world are still in awe of the so-called main god. In response, Lin Yu could only sigh helplessly. Unexpectedly, at this time, B Fugu suddenly thought of something, and said hesitantly, "But the villain has received some news by chance before, but I don't know if it's true or not." His voice was very low, and he was very cautious. He carefully glanced around when he spoke. Seeing this, Lin Yu raised his brows and asked, calmly, "What news?" "But it doesn't matter." B Fugu didn't notice the change in Lin Yu's expression, and he originally wanted to have a good relationship with Lin Yu through this method. After hesitating for a while, he lowered his head and said softly, "It is said that every king of the duchy has the ability to communicate with the divine space, such as the chosen son of the Lord. Yuyukanshu www.yuyukanshu.com is the king who communicates with the divine space after the king communicates with the divine space. The messenger sent by the gods, the villain's humble opinion. If it is wrong, I hope the Lord will not be surprised." After speaking, B Fugu laughed dryly again, thinking that Lin Yu knew this very well. "But I don't know." At this time, Lin Yu's heart had already set off a storm. The space of gods, obviously, is the area of the secondary plane where these lords were before. According to B Fugu's meaning, only kings have the ability to communicate regional spaces. In other words, is it only the king who has the ability to block the area and devour those sixth-order lords? Under the horror, Lin Yu's eyes couldn't stop shaking violently, and his body was even cold. But soon, he suppressed this emotion and said lightly, "It's almost like this, but I don't know much about communicating with gods." "You mean, only the king can communicate with gods in space?" "Communicate?" "Yes." B Fugu replied respectfully, "The villain has lived in the great wilderness country for so many years and has been to many cities. I have never heard of anyone other than the king successfully communicating with the divine space." Sure enough. Hearing B Fugu's answer, Lin You understood in his heart, and his expression gradually became solemn. This is probably the most useful information he has found since he came to the primitive continent. Although not sure if it is true or not, it is a very significant breakthrough. Thanks to the well-informed B Fugu, he avoided many detours. Thinking of this, he put a smile on his face again, and continued to chat with B Fugu to see if he could find other useful information. And their team gradually penetrated into the Gobi Desert. Noon, coming soon. After driving for a long time in the Gobi, Lin You finally brought the caravan to the agreed place, in the canyon where the two principalities meet. From a distance, Muyuan could already be seen waiting there with his troops and his subordinates. Sure enough, like Lin You, he led the team for the first time. "How is it? Did you encounter any danger along the way?" Muyuan brought his subordinates to greet him, and at the same time, glanced around the huge team behind Lin You. When he saw the blade shadow lion that Lin You was riding, and a large group of plants around the team, his pupils could not help shrinking slightly. These plants seems to be stronger than the last time he saw it. And there are more varieties. It's alright. I only occasionally encountered a few sixth-order monsters blocking the way. How about you? Lin, you didn't notice the change in Muyuan's expression. He turned over and jumped off the back of the blade shadow lion. Muyuan regained his senses, and immediately put a smile on his face again. "I am the same here. Although I don't have the strength of brother Lin You, it is more than enough to deal with monsters on the road." "That's good. Since that's the case, the caravan will be handed over to you to it, and I will send someone to meet you at noon in 5 days. "No problem, just leave it to me." The two of them had already discussed in detail about business affairs, so they didn't need to communicate too much. Just a few simple greetings, and then explained it to the caravan. Lin You handed over the team to Muyuan's team, and he continued to the caravan back to his Hyuan City. Soon, under the protection of a group of centaurs and sixth-order practitioners, the entire team passed through the canyon and slowly entered the territory of the Fire Kingdom. It was not until he watched them leave that Lin You rode on the blade shadow lion and took the plants to turn around and drive back towards Hyuan City. More than an hour later, he then returned to the outskirts of the Gobi, and saw the shadow of Hyuan City in the distance. Without the drag of the caravan, the speed is indeed much faster. But what Lin You didn't expect was, just when he was about to speed up and rush back to the territory, there were suddenly a few low-level cultivators in the distance, chasing the monsters and running towards him. "Quick, stop them, don't let them run away." "The third child. They're going over to you. If you want to catch it, you have to catch it, careful." Anxious shouts, accompanied by the hurried footsteps of the monsters, came to a place less than 100 meters away from him in a blink of an eye. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be 2 low-level wild boar monsters. This made Lin You recall the sight of commanding troops to chase down monsters when he first landed in the area. It's really nostalgic. With a sigh, he told the blood enchantress beside him to spread out the vines to both sides, blocking the path of the 2 wild boars. Those cultivators were shocked and finally noticed Lin You. When he saw Lin Yu's appearance and the plants he was carrying around him, his eyes suddenly widened. Lord! With just one glance, they recognized Lin Yu's identity. They never imagined that they would encounter Lin You here, and even their footsteps stopped in an instant. Not to mention the two monsters, who were so frightened that they curled up in the corner, shivering. At the same time, their attributes were also reflected in Lin Yu's eyes. Name, Tusk Wild Boar, domesticated. Race, beast. Level, Tier 3. Strength, 42. Physique, 38. Agility, 42. Spirit, 38. Skill, Pig Rush Forward. Introduction, a low-level wild boar with fast-running speed, docile temperament, delicious meat, and extremely strong reproductive ability. Can it be domesticated? Lin You was startled, looking very surprised. It was the first time he saw that monsters could be domesticated. Although it is only a third-order monster, it has a completely different meaning to him. Because now in Hyuan City, the captive animals are basically ordinary livestock of no order, and the quality of their meat production is completely incomparable to that of monsters. It's fine for ordinary people to eat, but there's no way to attract those cultivators. If it can be raised on a large scale, it will definitely be a huge business opportunity. Thinking of this, Lin You looked at the astonished people ahead and said, "How about selling these two monsters to me? I can pay you 200 magic crystals." 200 magic crystals. Several practitioners couldn't help exclaiming, "At this price, even if it is used to buy the corpses of monsters of the 5th or 6th order, it is not a problem." "How dare you think about it," and repeatedly replied, "Of course. Lord, take it if you want." "Okay, these are 200 magic crystals, then I'll take the monsters away." Lin You didn't say much, just threw a bag of magic crystals to them, and then let the Dryad generals grab the two wild boars who were too scared to move. "Be careful, don't get killed." Lin You couldn't help but explain, for fear that the Dryad generals could not control their strength and lose these two precious breeding pigs. This is his cash cow. After confirming that he was safe and sound, he led the team back to Hyuan City. Those cultivators stared with big eyes, and it took a while to react. Immediately surrounded the cloth bag, excitedly counting the magic crystals inside. And Lin You quickly returned to the territory. As soon as he passed through the entrance, he hurriedly came under the Tree of Life, clicked on the building interface, and searched carefully. There is. Immediately, he found a very suitable building. Building name, Feeding Farm. Building level, First Order, can be upgraded. Building function, raise poultry, livestock, monsters, and increase the feeding speed. Feeding efficiency, 110%. Daily consumption, 100 mana. Construction required, 100 wood, 100 stone, 250 magic energy. At first, when he saw this building www.lightnovel.com, he didn't quite understand what the above introduction meant. Now he finally understood. It turns out that, in addition to ordinary livestock, even monsters can be raised, but he didn't find the right way. Fortunately, the mining team collected a lot of ores for him in the past 2 days. Without hesitation, he directly selected a vacant corner of Hyuan City to build a breeding farm. At the same time, in Hyuan City, above the location he chose, a ray of light lit up, and countless stones and wood quickly gathered together to build rows of fences on the open space, encircling a huge captive area. Then, Lin You brought 2 wild boars, a male and a female, to the farm and put them into the enclosure. Su Zhong, who was working nearby, received the news and hurried over with his subordinates. Lord, what happened?" "Oh, you came just in time." Seeing Su Zhong, Lin You immediately waved to him. "I built a breeding farm here. You can arrange for a few strong people to come over and be responsible for raising monsters. You can report the wages to Director Shui." Raising monsters. Su Zhong stared, and couldn't help looking at the 2 wild boars that had been put into the fence by Lin You. "This is a third-order monster." "Yes." Lin You nodded. "Hyuan City can't live by growing crops alone, it needs to develop other things. The meat quality of monsters is much better than that of ordinary livestock, and it is not easy to get sick. If it can be raised on a large scale, is a good way out. Okay, I'll make arrangements now. It just so happened that I recently gathered a lot of cultivators from Hyuan City. The manpower is not a problem. Su Zhong said respectfully. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.